Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is me once again, screaming into the void of the internet. Guys. Um, we got it. We got our title, transferred. We got the registration done. We got our plate. All that's left is to get some insurance, as well as a little bit of work that I want to do. I want to make sure that the battery is good. I haven't tried to turn on the lights yet at nighttime, so I want to make sure that they're bright. So still a few things here and there. The bike's fine. I ran it, not ran it, I rode it, home and stuff, so it's all right, but still want to make sure everything's good. I don't want to just, start driving around, the headlights are dim, I like to make sure that everything's okay. And insurance. And guys, I'm only going to be paying, at least from what I looked at, one site, $18 a month. So that's fantastic. We're going to be saving quite a bit of money. Heck of a lot better than Ubers, I'll tell you that much. But wanted to talk about something, and I know I'm kind of spoiling you guys a bit because I've been uploading pretty consistently. Nice little conversation that we had today between me and a roommate, And in short, for some reason, it kind of drifted to social media, and from social media, it drifted into codependency and love. And this is interesting because, guys, I always talk about the male perspective, and so, she is the female perspective, So here's what actually was interesting, in my opinion. She's actually someone who believes that it would be better if we had less social media, which is interesting. I wouldn't have thought that she would say that, considering how much she, uses social media. She thinks that social media kind of confused everyone into believing that, all these little small niches and stuff are actual replacements for, human connection. And so I asked her, well, how far do you want the tech to go back? And she said, yeah, she doesn't know because she still likes, DVD players and stuff like that. And she admitted something very fascinating to me. She said that she would like to be Amish, which I laughed at. I didn't verbally laugh, but in my mind, just the memes where the person is holding in the laugh, that's what I said. Amish or a monk. And I was like, do you really think that you could stay? I genuinely asked this question. I said, do you genuinely think that you could stay celibate? Funnily enough, she says yes, which is funny considering that, like I've mentioned, guys, she was basically cucking her boyfriend. So, well, I don't like to say boyfriend because, I don't really feel like double X's these days have boyfriends. They have placeholders. They're always, on the lookout for something better. And she was cucking him. So I'm like, for someone who thinks that they're going to be celibate, you're getting around. Let's just say that. But when it came to the topic of codependency and love, she mentioned something very interesting. And I'm correlating this to a lot of the stuff. I mentioned this before, and I'm going to say it again, guys. This idea that there is a loneliness epidemic, I don't really think this male loneliness epidemic is as bad as people think it is. I think what it actually is projection. And the reason is, a lot of guys in this space that I've noticed, you don't like your lot, okay? A lot of you do want relationships and love and stuff like that. But you won't complain about it every single time. There are some guys that will, but, some just kind of accepted it. It is what it is, Whereas them, outwardly, they will say that they're okay. And then they start talking. And this is why people like to say, hey, just listen to them. They'll tell on themselves. And what does she say? She says that she's very anxious, she's very attached and stuff. And in my mind, I'm just like, well, Because I said, for me personally, I'm content with who I am, Because, guys, I haven't been on a date in, what, years right now? My last girlfriend was my ex, who was actually a roommate. Not the recent one, but when I was still in the location that I was originally recording in, the freaking crack shack, ratchet ghetto neighborhood and stuff like that with sisters and Keishas. Yeah, that was when I was involved. And honestly, guys, not being involved, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I don't feel like I'm incomplete. And I think that that's one of the biggest issues is that people have convinced each other that that you are incomplete, because you don't have someone, and it's just not the case. Not by a long shot. And so when she was admitting that, she's very dependent on her spouse or, whatever she wants to call the person, because like I said, like she certainly had her side piece. Uh, I just thought that was very fascinating because to me personally, I think codependence is a bad thing. I think it's important to depend on each other, but not to the extent where you are like one of these people that can't live without the other person. Like a lot of people see that as like the ultimate romance. And there's only one place that you're going to see that. That's fantasy, where it originates. When you are at the point where you feel like you need someone else, it's just dramatic and it's just unrealistic because fact of the matter is, folks, like that's not the world that we live in. If that was the world that we live in, people would not divorce at the rate that they would. They wouldn't leave people saying that they were too perfect, like that's just not what it is. We need to just accept that things are different now, And for me, what I realize, guys, is that, I just don't care. It's just that simple. Like no amount of talking about things being different is going to make it different. You have to, like, again, like I mentioned in the previous video last night, you gotta accept it for what it is. Don't like it, but you navigate it, right? And so for me, I just kind of told her straight up, like, hey, I don't care. And she said that she wishes that she could be like that. And I'm sure that a lot of them could be like that because, a previous manager that used to work at this store before she joined the military, people would tease her for not being in a relationship and she would like kind of get really pissed about it. And it's very interesting, like when they tease guys, sometimes the guys will laugh it off and be like, yeah, I don't get no bitches or whatever, but those gals, they'll get pissed because it's like, the thing is, they know that at any point they can get, they can get the D, everyone's going to line up for the D, but how many people are actually going to stay around, specifically the ones that, again, she wants to stay around? How many of them are going to stay around? Not many, Me personally, guys, I'm just happy. I'm happy that I am in control of my life, The only real thing I'll tell you, and I think I mentioned this before, guys. The only main thing I miss about the relationships, because I'll tell you straight up, guys. No, it's not what you think. It's not the sex. I like the sex, but you don't get it nearly as much as you think that you'll get it in a relationship. You don't get it as much. I kind of missed, to an extent, doting on a person. And what I mean by this is, like kind of just, loving through acts, if that will, like running their bath, giving them a massage, making sure that they felt, like they could talk to me about anything. I like that stuff. And I don't just like it on a romantic sense. I like it, even on a sense with my best friend. I love that he knows that if he needed me, he can come to me. And he knows that if I need him, I'll come to him. Pause, you sick bastards, not in that way. But I like stuff like that. Because like I said, I'll tell you straight up, guys, you're going to be spending quite a bit of cash in a relationship. No matter how much some of these people want to say, oh, this is not true. Like, I hate how you have like these male simps that are just like sniffing the coochie juice and they just parrot the female talking point because they're like, maybe if I'm just a male simp, maybe I'll get the coochie juice. No, you're gonna get pegged. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get pegged. You will not taste coochie juice. You're just gonna get pegged. Like I don't need somebody to disagree with our, not disagree, but agree with us on everything at all. But it's like when I see a guy just basically just parroting female talking points, it's just irritating. It really is. Because it's not like you have to take our side because, you're a guy. That's not really what it is. It's just, if you're one of these people that's like, oh, you can't criticize them. That's bigoted, like, and even this platform, for God's sakes, the previous video that had nothing in it, nothing at all in relation to any of that, immediately got hate speeched. It got removed and I got a guideline strike. Now, they took it away, but I'm surprised that they did. Heck, this might get flagged, you never know. But I wanted to share that because I said, like, no matter what anyone wants to say, guys, let's theoretically say that the male loneliness epidemic is as bad as it is. It's just as bad on the double X end, guys. It really is. They really want somebody to just commit and love them, but they don't know how to accept it. And they sabotage themselves. And it's pretty effed up because in a certain aspect, it's not only men that's getting screwed up, guys. Like, feminism has brainwashed all of these freaking double X's into what they're doing. But at the end of the day, they're not victims. Okay? They gave them the gun. They pulled the trigger. You know, they can argue that, well, I just didn't know what to do with the power. No, listen, you had the gun and you pulled the trigger. I could care less if you feel like you were brainwashed. You did it. And you not only did it once or twice or thrice, some people have done it like dozens of times. They have sabotaged so many relationships. It's just like, can you imagine being in 10 relationships, you know, over the course of, say, like, I don't know, 5 years, you know, 2 people a year, right? Because if you say that you're a committed person and stuff like that, you know, like how could you possibly be with that many people? I'm not talking about body count. I'm just talking about relationships. You know, we're not even talking about the body count. Just relationships. You're a committed person, but you've been in 10 relationships in 5 years? Interesting. You know, it's very interesting. But that's all I really wanted to share because I thought that was a nice little interesting conversation. And, you know, when I do get interesting conversations with her, I do like to share them. Because she gives me a window until, you know, let's just be honest, you know, the woke, you know, leftoid, shall we say. Again, I like her as a person, but it is a shame that someone could be so close. They can be on the cusp of, you know, opening their mind, and then it's just, I must stay in this, you know, I must stay in this bubble. It is what it is. Nevertheless, guys, that's all I'm gonna share with you. Hopefully this won't get, you know, guideline strike, but who knows. You know, one day at a time, folks. You know, we're slowly doing it. And all I really need next is to practice this motorcycle. Maybe get some another phone, because I really want a navigator phone, because I don't like putting my phone on this thing. I really don't. And I think we'll be well on our way. You know, we'll start being able to ride to work consistently and all kinds of stuff. And then that's a whole other danger zone, because, you know, who knows. But nevertheless, one day at a time, folks. It's just one day at a time. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, there's life beyond your pain. Feel free to talk in the comments if you have some interesting tidbits to share about what I just talked about. You know, God bless. I'll see you next time.